What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. I am the Poetic Hill, and in today's video, we're going to be reading. In today's video, we're going to be reading my book. Um, I think I've talked about it previously, like a long time ago, in my previous videos, but we're going to bring it back. We're just going to read a little bit of, um, we're going to just read one today and just break it down. I just think it's good to bring it back a little bit. I know I've done a little bit of astrology and other topics and things like that, but it's good to just bring this book because I feel like it's written in a way where all people from all walks of life can relate to. So I think it's great to be able to review the book. It's a book that I wrote myself. Um, it's called The Poetic Healing. Um, if you can see on the front, we got it's like an indigenous warrior um, with his bow and arrow um, pointing to the sky. So that's symbolic of your mind. Your mind is like a bow and arrow, you know. Wherever your mind points, wherever your consciousness directs, that's where you point your mind to. That's what you point your attention to. The attention is like the arrow. The bow is your mind, and wherever you shoot your consciousness to, wherever you shoot your attention to, that's where your mind is at. So you want to aim high, you want to aim for the sky. you know you want to extend yourself, you want to extend who you are as a person and whatever you're trying to achieve in life. So yeah, that's pretty much the vision of the book. It was just to extend who you are as a person, to have that self-reflection of who you are and be able to expand on who you are. But yeah, we'll read it. So yeah, it's called The Poetic Healing. Um, it's my book. You can, if you want a book, you can just say something in the comments, and I can arrange that. So yeah, all right, let's get to it. So this one's called The Alchemist. I don't know. I believe I might have talked about this in my previous videos, a very long, the old videos, but it's all good. We can bring it back again. There's always a new breakdown each time it's being read. But it's called The Alchemist. It says constant waves of emotions creates great forms of explosions. The artistic structure of nature can be expressed through countless pictures. Experiences portrayed within each second shows that life is filled with various types of questions. A platform with no foundation is easily destructible. A world with no sense of self is a world full of hurt and trouble. The binding of the internal through the external is of true artistry. Sounds and vibrations dancing in space, creating beautiful symphonies. All scenarios are a subtle reminder of your ongoing path. The ending result should be the perfection of your chosen craft. And that is The Alchemist. So constant waves of emotions creates great forms of explosion. So whatever you're doing, you're always, if there's something that you have a deep desire, that's that platonic energy. That's what creates that great wave of explosion, whether it's for good or bad. Explosion could be, you use that emotion to explode into um, whatever success that you want to achieve in your life. Whether it's sports or art or intellect or business or whatever it is, you have to have that powerful emotion, and you have to pour into that cup of creation, into that cup of productivity. So, constant waves of emotion creates great forms of explosions. The artistic structure of nature can be expressed through countless pictures. So, whatever nature you have is expressed through countless pictures, right? So, pretend each action you make, each word you say is like a picture. It's like a frame of a picture. And just put together, like in the olden days when they used to make movies like cartoons, they'll have a bunch of pictures and they'll put it into fast motion to create that form of kinetic movement. So it's the same thing. Um, so when it says here the artistic structure of nature can be expressed through countless pictures, so the way you express yourself is your artistic nature. That is the way you express yourself. Just the way the world also expresses itself. Reality is pretty much like a recycling system. Experience, life, our body, our mind, everything is just a recycling because everything is based on cycles, right? And your body recycles itself. You know, it get rid of the waste and the toxins and things like that. It also implements all the nutrients that you do eat and drink. You know, so that's a recycling system. Same thing with the ecosystem. With the birds putting the seeds onto the ground, the flowers sprouting out, the worms eating all the bacteria and the flies. Everything's a recycling. Vultures, things decompensating. I think that's the word. They can, yeah. Anyway, you know what I mean. Um, Experiences portrayed within each second shows that life is filled with various types of questions. So experiences portrayed within each second is what we experience. Every experience is based on each second, but obviously you're not going to be aware of each second. It just happens in one go. But if you break it down, then you can be based on each second. You know, there's different measurement for that. Um, it shows that life is filled with various types of questions because every time you have an experience, it also brings up an experience. Sorry, it also brings up a question and an answer. So that's how we learn through life, through questions and answers. And we mostly gain that from experiences. A platform with no foundation is easily destructible. A world with no sense of self is a world full of hurt and trouble. So a platform with no foundation is easily destructible. So if you don't stand for something, then you can easily fall for anything. So that's what it's really saying there. You need to have a strong structure of who you are as a person and your mentality and perspective in life. You have to have a strong foundation. And foundations can also be remodeled. You know what I'm saying? It's not like it cannot be remodeled, but you still have to have some form of solid ground and stand on something. Um, a world with no sense of self is a world full of hurt and trouble. The binding of the no, sorry, a platform, yeah, a platform with no foundation is easily destructible. A world with no sense of self is a world full of hurt and trouble. So, a world is talking about your world. It's not about the external world. It's talking about your internal world because you cannot control the external world. You can only control your internal world. And when you control your internal world, then your external environment will reflect that. So you place yourself into people, places, and things that reflect your internal world, your frequency, and your vibration. You know what I'm saying? So it's very important to always check and do that self reflection of who you are and who you want to align yourself with. So yeah, so if, with no sense of self, so that's what I'm saying. It's very important to know your sense of self because when you know yourself, then you won't be in the world of hurt and trouble because you'll be more in the world of assurance, confidence. You know, being being solid, having solitude. You know for sure. Okay, this is what I stand for, and this is what makes me comfortable. And then it says the binding of the internal through the external is of true artistry. Sounds of vibrations dancing in space, creating beautiful symphonies. So the binding of the internal through the external is of true artistry. So it's just talking about the yin and yang of life, of existence. Everything is up and down and inside and out. You know, there's always an opposite for everything. And that's what makes it beautiful because everything's all about balance. And the more we realize that life is all about balance, that is when um, you will actually be able to have a full understanding and context of life and existence. It says all scenarios are a subtle reminder of your ongoing path. The ending result should be the perfection of your chosen craft. So it's ongoing. You know what I mean? When you make an inclination or a declaration to create something, it's going to be ongoing before you reach the final result. That's why you have to just enjoy the process, because the process is what leads to the end result. It's not to worry about the ending, it's all about focusing on the process, and the process will be the boat to lead you to, down the stream of whatever experience you want to experience. And that's the most important thing. So yeah, guys, that's Alchemist. So that's how to be an alchemist. It's all about creating your own element, realizing your own element, and certain elements stand out compared to others. Some people might be more fiery, some people might be more watery, more emotional, more empathetic. You know, they might have more intuition. The fire might have more action, more confidence, more charisma. What I'm saying? These are power. That's really what it is. Like people who are very charismatic, they embody the power of fire, like literally. So they're very charismatic. It's just how they are. Their demeanor, their energy, their aura is very fiery, and people are drawn to that flame. It's like a moth to the flame. So whenever they express themselves, people have no choice but to be gravitated towards that. And they have very good like manipulation, not manipulation, but like they know how to, because fire is bending. You know what I'm saying? And so fire is very flexible. That's what I mean. Yeah. So with their charismatic expression, they're very multifaceted. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Very multifaceted with their charismatic gifts. So they embody the power of fire. And if you embody the power of water, then um you have the power of like empathy. Like you know how to take your um subtle body. No, not subtle. You know how to take your like your light body, like your astral body, yeah, and bring it out of your physical body and be able to, because water is more liquid, so it's more fluid. So it knows how to flow into other things and be able to absorb that and know what that's of. Absorb that material. So since water knows how to absorb materials, it knows how to absorb energy. It knows how to know and go into other spaces to know how it feels like for certain experiences or emotions to be. So that's the power of water. They know how to be creative and very empathetic, you know, um, and they know how to pour. They have a lot of energy to give. Um, yeah, a lot of people crave their energy because water is a necessity, right? Water is something that we cannot live without. So if you have a lot of water energy, people crave your energy. So you have to learn how to control that, where you can pour into people, but at the same time still have enough water for yourself. You know what I'm saying? If you're air, you're more like you're very evasive. You know what I mean? You know how to be evasive. You know how to get out of tricky situations, because air is, you cannot trap air. It just goes through. So you have a lot of evasive mentalities, evasive expression, and you know how to get away with things that a lot of people cannot get away with. You know what I mean? So when you have that air energy, a lot of things that you will do, people will let it slide because it's just the way you know how to be subtle with things, but at the same time still express it at the same time. It's like a subconscious like penetration, but you don't feel it. You know what I'm saying? That's the air energy. So you know how to be slick. You know what I mean? You know how to be slick. Whether it's your energy, just the way you express yourself. You know how to have you come up with catchy words. People have no choice but to just subconsciously repeat the things that you say or just the way you express yourself. So yeah, that's with air. And then with earth, people rely on you. You're someone that a lot of people rely on. Like you know how to bring stability to people, and you can be a mental crutch to a lot of people. It's a blessing and a curse because the thing with having the earth energy is that a lot of people depend on your stability, and by the same time it's like a burden for you having to deal with that. It's like you get tired of it, but at the same time it's still something you can do. It's just who you are. Like you cannot help but to create stability. It's just it's how you exist. You don't know how to function other way but to create stability. So a lot of people gravitate towards that because a lot of people don't know how to do that for themselves, right? With their other elements. So by you being able to create that stability for people, sometimes you want that stability for yourself, but then a lot of people depend on your stability. So you have to kind of like separate yourself sometimes and create your own stability while maintaining the stability of others at the same time. So that's the thing. But yeah, you know how to be very sure of yourself. You know how to be very grounded in your decisions and your thinking and your perspective of life. You're very solid and very hearted um, with your element. You know, but yeah, you know how to create a lot of stability. You just sometimes that's all you know, and sometimes it's just all work, no play. So you have to learn how to balance that and still learn how to utilize other elements a little bit, even though you might not be comfortable with those elements. But by you adding a little bit of those elements, you will still lighten up the load. You can use the water to, uh, what's it, feed the land. Because your stability, you can use that water to feed the land, and add a little bit of fire, to let it grow like the sun, and then add a little bit of air to blow it around and give it that oxygen that it needs for it to grow. So it's just all about knowing your main element, but then still learning how to utilize other elements a little bit to help you navigate life. But yeah, I digress. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the video for today. Hope you guys gained something new. And until next time, I'll catch you guys soon.